episode 124. So in last week's video you saw me wrestling with that Bowden cable. That is a tricky problem. All I'm trying to do is get the car to change gear at a higher RPM when I've got my foot down. I'm not after wringing its nuts out every time I change gear, but when I bash my foot down I want it to sort of rev up, develop some power and sort of go. But on these early cars there's a distinct lack of information about how to do that. The later cars is quite well discussed, but I really struggle to find anything. So since that last video, a lot of you guys have contacted me. I've had lots of pointers and tips. I've gone off and read the Porsche docs on the gearbox. I've also read the Mercedes manual on the gearbox. Remember that 3 speeds of Mercedes gearbox. I think actually the 4 speed as well, but you know, anyway. I think I know what I'm doing this time. So this week I want to get back under the car, see if I can get it with changing gear at a high RPM. As I say every week, please click the like button, subscribe and leave comments. Making these videos is really hard work. It takes up most of my weekend. So the instant thing you can do to help me is to click the like button down there. Just click it. The more likes I get, the more YouTube thinks that's a cool video and sort of throws it up and more of the public see it. And if you really want to help, click the subscribe button. That helps me grow the channel and sort of motivates me and keeps me going. But anyway, let's dive in there now and see how I get on. Right, before I go laying under the car, 2 things I want to do before I do the Bowden cable. One, I've got the straight pipe still on the exhaust, and I don't know if you remember when I made the exhaust system, I made it in such a way that you can swap out the rear, I don't know, what is that, couple of foot of the section. I've got 2 sections made. I've got one that's got straight pipes and one that's got a silencer. So I'm going to swap to the silenced version for a little while, a little bit quieter, a little bit more refined, get that back on the car. I'm also going to, I noticed my gearbox is leaking oil, so I want to just sort of nip up those, the sump, I guess it's called a sump, the transmission sump bolts, just sort of get those nipped up a little bit. And then we can get on with the Bowden cable. You can see how loose they are. I mean, just a little twist of my wrist is doing these up. I really don't want to do them too tight because I believe it sort of deforms the gasket. It's quite hard to tell when there's a leak and you drive the car, it could get sprayed everywhere. So I think what we'll do is we'll try that and see what it's like. Now, the next thing I want to do while I'm under here is have a go at adjusting that Bowden cable stop thing, I don't know what you call it, but it sits on the side of the gearbox here and I can wind that. I can see it from here. It looks like about a 10mm bolt. I can wind that and we'll see what difference that makes to the gear change. Let's be hopeful and pretend it's actually going to fix what I want. It's not really possible for me to film while I'm doing it, but what I've got then is a socket set which is here dangling out, and a spanner, and that's the adjuster on the side of the gearbox that I'm just tweaking to see if that changes where it changes gear. I'm pretty sure that's our boy. Right, so that made no difference at all. So I have slackened that bolt as far as I can. Now what I'm going to do then is wind it up as tight as I can, and hopefully that will make a difference. I suspect that it was probably already slack and all I've done is sort of make it more slack. Now let's tighten up and see if that changes the gear change. There's someone cutting their grass today which is playing havoc with me recording videos, so hopefully it's quiet for a little while. But let's get on there and just sort of tighten it right up and try again.
Right, now that's the bolt done up as tight as possible. I don't know what difference that has, but let's go try it and just see. What I did notice though, if I just put my light down, is that this pipe here, that is broken. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it around on camera, like you can just see it there. Now I'm just gonna look at that and just check what it is, but that shouldn't be broken. Right, and while I'm under here, I'm gonna play around with this adjustment again. And I think the consensus is that this adjusts how stiff the gear change is. And mine's a little bit floaty, so I've got to pull it out. I'm trying to do it live for you. I'm going to turn it 1/2, so that's 1/4. There we go. Right, so that's 1/2 turn clockwise. So looking at the abruptness of the gear change, I'm in first now, so I'll put my foot down not too hard and I'll change up into second and then into third. And then back down to second. And then down into first. Fairly down low, you can hear it sort of judder as I change gear. It's quite abrupt. Right, back in the garage now. Tricky, isn't it? I don't want to say that those adjustments made no difference, because it's now changing at 4,200. But it was changing it, and that's maximum. That's like wound that adjuster all the way in. When I had it wound all the way out, it changed at 4,100. So it's pretty much, I'm going to say it makes no difference. What I'm going to do now is get the parts diagram out, have a look at that cable tube thing that's cracked on the side of the gearbox. I say cable, I'm leaning more towards it being a cable because it's like something sheathed as opposed to a tube that would leak everywhere, and I don't see why a tube would have a bit of metal inside. So I'm going to have a look at that, work out what that's doing, and basically try and find whatever else there is under there that can change where this stupid gear change happens. Right, back up in the engine bay. Someone just messaged me and said that the adjuster for the Bowden cable is under the airbox. I know exactly where he means, so I'm going to have a quick look and check. I didn't see it when I was in there last time, but let's get the airbox off again, have another look. But while I'm in there, what I'm going to do is chase it from the, basically from the accelerator pedals. I'm going to get the accelerator pedal and sort of wedge it down on the floor, check the cables connected correctly and adjusted correctly for the throttle. Then we'll go backwards onto the Bowden cable and back down to the back of the car and just make sure that's all sort of correctly aligned and everything. I'm also going to check the kickdown switch because I noticed it isn't kicking down. That's just the torque converter sort of doing its thing. So we'll have a look at that while I'm down there sort of wedging the accelerators fully open. I'm not sure exactly how much I can show you under the car on that, where the Bowden cable connects to the gearbox. Basically the cable comes in and there's a long sort of arm, and that arm connects to another arm that's sort of on top of each other, and that's what actually turns inside the gearbox. Now, I think my Bowden cable is stretched a little bit, and that means that the bolt that I've been adjusting, which is this an adjustment bolt, at maximum it just doesn't do enough. It's not pulling enough on the cable. So I can't get my, I think on the
the gearbox end of the Bowden cable, I think it is actually adjustable. I can't get my hand up there far enough to, well, I could probably just about unclip it from the ball connector thing, but I won't be able to get it back on. So I'm not going to try at this moment. What I'm going to do is, and the other option is to increase the path that cable goes. So if I can't make the cable shorter, I'll just make it travel further. So I've cut a little bit of fuel pipe. I don't know if that'll focus or not. Probably not, no, my luck. A little tiny bit of fuel pipe with a slit down the side. So I'm going to slide it over bonnet end. I'm going to slide it over the Bowden cable here. That'll make, what is that, probably an inch, maybe a little bit less than an inch. Yeah, a centimetre and a half. I'll slide it over there. That'll make it a little bit, the path longer, which will make the Bowden cable tighter. That'll mean then the adjustment under the on the gearbox will actually have some effect, and I can get under there and adjust it correctly. After this car. Okay, let's nail it out of here. So again, 4,500 RPM. Definitely higher than before. Let's get it back. I'll get it up on the ramps again, adjust it a bit, and we'll see what happens. Right, you know the drill. Let's go test this gearbox. I've warmed the car up. I'm just sat at a junction. I'm going to pull out here. We'll pull out quite quickly. Let's just see where it changes gear. That's about half throttle. So it changed it 4. But that was only half throttle, so we don't need to panic yet. That was exactly the same as normal. Let's see. I'm pretty hopeful this is going to work. The next junction I should be able to nail it and come out quite quickly. Right, let's see which way we can go. Okay, we can nail it down here, I think. Okay, it changed to about 4.5. Try it again down here. So it's definitely gone up. 4.5 is higher than 4,100, so it's definitely raised the RPM to some degree. I think I'd like to get it back in the garage and just have a look and make sure my makeshift little bit of pipe is doing what I want it to do. It's sort of lengthening the path. Other than that, it's getting tricky to work out. I can't get my hand up inside there. I have now got some adjustment on the Bowden cable mechanism down on the gearbox, so I can adjust that a bit more. But I'm starting to run out of ideas again.
something. Mainly the road. I'll just stamp on the throttle when we get to these unrestricted zone. Three, two, one. I guess we're probably in first gear. I'll stamp on it here. I just got back from the last run. I'm not unhappy with how that's working now. That's changing at about 5,000 RPM, maybe 4,900 depending on how it feels, if it's in a good or bad mood, but that's not bad. I could keep pushing it and go backs and forwards. I think what I'm finding now is that the Bowden cable's adjusted correctly. I slackened off the lock nut, and that seems to be spot on. I can kick it down when I want to, and I can feel that there is tension. It's all good and tight. What I'm finding now is affecting it is I think it's called the pressure modulator, which changes how abrupt the gear changes are. Remember the gear, when you've got your foot down, you're balancing the pressure between the vacuum of the engine and the pressure on the throttle. And it's sort of like a balancing act. And when the vacuum from the engine exceeds the throttle pressure, it changes gear. Now, and I've adjusted it as much as I can. I suspect changing the pressure modulator, which I say is changing how abrupt the gear changes, is also in that sort of calculation. I could make it more abrupt, but I quite like it how it is. I don't want to go too much more abrupt. I should probably do it just out of an experiment, but I've run out of time. I've spent 2 weeks doing this gearbox. That is a long time. And some other bits, but you know. So anyway, hopefully that's been interesting and useful. There's a lot of footage, so I'm going to have to cut that right down and try and squeeze it into a consumable 15 minutes or so. As ever, thank you for watching. Click the like, subscribe, leave me some comments. Any questions on Bowden cables? I feel like I'm a bit of an expert now. Anything I'm doing wrong on the Bowden cables, leave me a comment, and I'll see you next time.